correct.
The candidate most likable is somehow not electable. That's the story from the editorial board.
Let's begin with phase one.
We'd like to save the world when it's under attack, but how you gonna pay for that? Ow!
That's correct.
When people want proof that the world ain't flat, we'll just give them their money back. Oh yeah!
But we gotta get down to business.
We heard what you wanna do. Now we'll tell you what's best for you. That's the story from the editorial board.
Springtime. Love it.
A little tip for the working man. Your employers are all our friends. That's the story from the editorial board. That's the story from the editorial board.
I'd love to win a Grammy.
Save the world when it's under attack, but how you gonna pay for that? Ow!
I'm a Trumpocrat.
Democrat, that's right.
When people want proof that the world ain't flat, we'll just give them their money back. Oh yeah! That's the story from the editorial board.
I'm not a doctor.
That's the story from the editorial board.
I'm not a doctor.
That's the story from the editorial board. That's the story from the editorial board.
Hey guys, what's happening? We're live. All right, live stream chat. What's going on? I guess you can hear us. Holler. Let us know you can. Make sure we're good. Oh, hey, right on time, Brown Line.
Yeah.
Take a toke. All right, your Ben Joravsky show.
I love the exhale. It's the exhale that always gets me.
Well, yeah, you know.
You're
What you gotta do? Hold that in the whole time, you'll die. You gotta exhale.
you gotta let it go sometimes.
And then there's the part of the bong where you do it and you put your hand over the top of the bong. You go.
Yeah, really get the pressure going.
And you go. Then you get the last bit that I don't do. The last bit is. Yeah, man, hit play.
Yeah, life is good, man.
All right, your Ben Joravsky show for Tuesday, May 19th is moments away. But before we do this, let's thank these unions for jumping on board and sponsoring this podcast. Unions like the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers, Local 126 and District 8, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 9, and the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 150. Thanks, unions, for sponsoring us. If you're listening to this and you're in a union and you're like, boy, I'd like to sponsor that show where they're in the attic and the brown line goes by every 10 minutes, holler at us. BennyJShow@gmail.com. Become a sponsor. We'd love to have you.
That's correct.
And, of course, today's Ben Joravsky show is brought to you by our good friends at the Chicago Federation of Labor. Long time no talk to, CFL. Let's get one of you guys on our show. What the hell?
Let's get Ryder back.
Ryder, Don
on, Bob
Villar,
Ryder.
Jake Lewis. Come on. Let's do
Bob
this.
Ryder. We need him in this attic.
All right. So Ben had a song of the day ready, but he keeps forgetting that he doesn't get to pick them anymore.
I know, man.
It's the live stream audience that gets to pick them. And we do have a request here. Let me look through. Ben, give everybody a recap of what we're going to be talking about today while I look at the live stream chat and pick our song of the day.
Oh, I got all sorts of great philosophical paradoxes we're going to discuss. We're going to talk about my continued search for a Republican who does what he actually says you should do. It's an ongoing search, always looking for Republicans who step up and do the things that they say. They live the life they say they're going to live. We're going to talk about Shia Kapos', the reporter for Politico, her journey to Wisconsin. Hung out with people at a bar in Kenosha. It was an excellent coverage, I want to say, by Shia Kapos and Politico about that. So that's just some of the things we'll be talking about.
Guys, a great show today, all right? And as every show, well, now we've got the brown line there, as you can hear.
Yes, there goes.
But we have a song of the day. And Ben, you get to pick, all right? You got two options here. You have either Brianna's request, which is Rubber Band Man by the Spinners.
Oh, I love that song.
Or
Rubber Band Man, Rubber Band Man.
Well, I guess
how much rhythm, grace, and soul can one man have? Sorry.
That's it. That's our song
Wait,
of the
what's
day.
the other one?
Well, you already sang it. We Are the World is Doogie's.
Oh, we are the world. We are. And then Dylan comes in. Yeah, you gotta be. Everybody else can sing on the song. Have you ever heard this song, D?
Yeah, I've heard We Are the World.
So everybody can sing, And so, Quincy Jones put it. Check the egos at the door. It's like the Ben Joravsky show. When you come on this show, check that ego at the door, right? Everybody check their ego. Everybody's singing. Everybody sings so nice. These are really great singers. And then all of a sudden, Bob Dylan comes in.
Yeah.
Who let him in? I love Bob.
Just woke up.
Just woke up.
I smoked 12 cigarettes.
It's like Quincy Jones is like, all right, let's cut his part a little bit. And then your favorite is in there, D.
Who?
Bruce Springsteen.
Gross.
Hates Bruce Springsteen, ladies and
Yeah.
gentlemen.
What I think Bruce Springsteen are his initials. BS.
By the way, I'm gonna take this opportunity to do a little what do you call it, D? Tease. That's what you call it in the radio game. Bobby Diber will be on the show on Wednesday, and he is, of course, the downstate Democrat. Dennis, very envious of this, voted for him for governor in the Democratic primary in 2018. I did not. I rue that day. It's the vote that I let get away. And Dennis has a I voted for Bobby D t-shirt that he wears all the time. But he's coming on the show. We're going to be talking about downstate politics and about the whole issue of the pandemic downstate. And he's in Madison County, which is Dennis's home county, Alton area. And you're talking about whether... Well, Dennis has a story about the revolt that's brewing down there. Anyway, a lot to talk about with him. But we'll also ask him...
Okay, we got a lot of teas in here. Keep going. Keep going.
We're also going to ask him about the great Bruce Springsteen, Jimmy Buffett. Do not debate. Do not allow me to go finish that interview without asking him that question, all right?
All right, so you got a tease of what's coming up today and
that's
tomorrow.
and-
You talked about today already,
Yeah.
and tomorrow, and what he's going to be. Oh, guys, get ready. The Ben Joravsky Show starts now. It is Tuesday, May 19th, and live from Ben's attic, this is the Ben Joravsky Show. Today on the program, it's the long-awaited return of our Chicago reader colleague, Maya Dukmasova. And now your host, Chicago reader columnist Ben Joravsky.
Hello, everybody. Ben Joravsky here. We're calling this No Stress Tuesday, and here's why. Because we're not stressing. That's why, right, D?
That's wrong.
Yeah, right?
Wrong.
Yeah. No stress, okay? No stress, all right? No stress. I got up at 10 a.m., put my clothes on by noon, right? I was ready to rock and roll in the pandemic. Now, D got up at 8, went for a bike ride.
No, it was raining.
Oh, well, you rode to my house. But anyway, while I was getting up at 10 and dressing at noon, I was wondering how in the world I'll just speak for myself because I think the young doctor is capable of doing it. How in the world am I going to get back in the swing of things to go back to the studio? Think about that, D. Think about those old days. I had to get up early and get on down to the West Loop and, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'll be on the train. How in the world are we going to do that?
I don't know.
Oh, my God. We've been in the attic for how many months now?
3.
3 months?
2, going on 3, I
Yeah,
guess.
2.5 months in the attic, man. But somehow or other, we're going to get it right. Right, D? To quote Dennis, we're not Tom Brokaw. We're Tom Broke-Ass. There's really not relevant to absolutely
Brokaw. We're not Tom
anything.
Brokaw. We're Tom Brokass.
Okay, you got this thing now where, what did I say?
Broco?
What's his name? Brokaw, isn't it?
Brokaw.
Oh, excuse me, Mr. Phonetics. I went to radio school.
Ben, it's Tom Brokaw.
Brokaw.
Brokaw?
Yeah.
Like a crow goes caw?
Yeah.
Brokaw? Well, we're not Tom Brokaw. We're Broke-Ass. That's a good line by Dennis. What's on my mind? Great weekend. I saw Patty Cakes. Good movie. I urge everyone to run to see it. It's one of those independent movies about a Polish-American girl from a blue-collar town in New Jersey who wants to be a rapper. Excellent stuff. I urge everybody to go see it. What else? So the last episode. The last 2 episodes, they were dropped on Sunday of The Last Dance, the Michael Jeffrey Jordan documentary. I'm not allowed to talk about Bulls basketball because it's a political show, right, D?
That's right.
Yeah, so I won't talk about it.
That's correct.
We gonna do the gag again? One more time. Come on, man. One last time. Hey, D, there's some teriyaki chicken in the on the oven. You might want to look at it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Works better when you don't call to it, but sure. Let me go down there.
Yeah, it's right next to Tom Brokaw. Is he gone? Good. All right, everybody's gone. I'll sneak in a little talk here. One last time. Great documentary. I really enjoyed it. It's things that they overlooked. They should have done something on Craig Hodges. By the way, we have the Craig Hodges interview, which you can download and listen to. Dropped it last Thursday, but they really overlooked Craig Hodges. They just didn't
All right,
want to.
I'm back. What are you talking about?
Sorry, nothing. I was. Talking about how much I miss basketball and how much I miss The Last Dance now that it's over, and I want the basketball season to return. So
There's
anyway,
no chicken teriyaki down there.
oh, there wasn't?
No.
Oh, oh, sorry about that. Don't you hate when that happens? But anyway,
Fool me once. Fool me 4 times?
I think we've done that gag 5 times, but who's counting? There was a great article in the New Yorker. I did a lot of reading this weekend. Was up late a lot. Yes, it's true. I get up at 10, sometimes 11, sometimes noon. But I also go to bed at 5, 4, 3 sometimes. So anyway, there was a very interesting article in the New Yorker this week. I guess it ran last week by a gentleman I never heard of before. Frank Ramsey is his name. The guy was absolutely brilliant, a genius. He died at age 26 from a liver infection that he may have picked up during a swim. He was British, so he's swimming in a river in London. He died in 1930 at age 26. I'd never heard of him, Frank Ramsey, but I'm not an expert in the fields that he was in. At age 26, he was also one of the most renowned economists, philosophers, and mathematicians of his time. I didn't know about him at all. You ever heard of him, D?
Nope.
Frank Ramsey? Yeah, I never heard of him either. And so there's an article that talked about his great contributions that he made in just 26 years of life and how brilliant he was and how he just astounded everybody that came in contact with him. Anyway, this one thing that just popped out of my mind, and I've been running it by people. One of the things he did was he explored the issues of self-referential paradoxes, and the famous example. So this is like a philosophical problem or a paradox that he explored. So here you go, Dennis. One famous example concerns a barber who shaves all those and only those who do not shave themselves. Does the barber then shave himself? What do you think, D?
I am lost.
Okay, one more time. Here we go. Everybody, pay attention now. No dyslexia allowed in this group. One famous example concerns a barber who shaves all those and only those who do not shave themselves. Does that barber shave himself? If he only shaves people who do not shave themselves, does he shave himself? Dennis?
Ice Cube.
Okay. All right. I say he does shave himself because when he shaves himself, he's not technically a barber shaving himself. He's himself shaving himself. Anyway, I just found that a fascinating thing. I've been asking people about it ever since and get all kinds of responses. That's the first time I ever got the response of Ice Cube. Anyway, what else? What else was there? Dan Mihalopoulos wrote a great article. I ran last week, but I finally got around to reading it this weekend. Dan Mihalopoulos, an old friend of the show, has been on a few times. WBEZ political reporter, and he wrote about Darren Bailey. We talk a lot about Darren Bailey, D. I think you said we'd probably give him more attention than anybody else in the state of Illinois gives him. He, of course, is the downstate legislator, a Republican, who's been leading the charge against Pritzker's stay-at-home orders. He's the one who filed suit saying that the Pritzker went too far and he should not have that authority to force people to stay at home. And he actually prevailed in a local court downstate. The judge said that he, Darren Bailey, had the right to go about his business. Though the problem with the lawsuit, of course, it just focused on Darren Bailey, so it gave him the right to go, like, say, bowling, but it did not require bowling alleys to open up or free bowling alleys to open up. So really, he got a right that he couldn't exercise, but he stood up for his right. And so Danny Mihalopoulos breaks down, gives a little profile of the man. I didn't realize this. I didn't know about Darren Bailey until he emerged as a public figure in the last couple of weeks. But for instance, he was elected in 2018. I didn't realize that. I thought he'd been in office longer, but he was one of the state reps that was targeted by the anti-Madigan crowd. They wanted to punish Republicans who had dared to vote with the Democrats to end the budget crisis. If you recall, in 2018, we talked a lot about that. That was the big topic of the day. There was 3 years, I think, the state went without a budget as Governor Bruce Rauner at the time, was trying to force Democrats to bend to his will on the matter of union rights, collective bargaining rights. He wanted them to strip unions of those collective bargaining rights. And so he, at one point, I think it was, I guess it was, God, the time is just merging. It would have been in the spring of 2018. They finally got enough votes to pass a budget to override Rauner's veto of the budget. And so Dan Proft and some of the other right-wing Republicans in the state said they were going to punish the Republicans who gave the votes to override that veto. And one of those reps was a gentleman that Darren Bailey ran against, and Bailey defeated him. So Darren Bailey was sort of the product of the revolt against the revolt of Republicans who dared to vote with Democrats, if you follow all that. So I thought he'd been around longer than that, but he's a new character on the stage. He's making quite a name for himself. Already he's going to be elevated to state senate. There's a vacancy in his area, and he won the Republican primary, and there's no Democratic opponent, so he will now be a state senator. So Dennis is predicting for the last couple of weeks that Darren Bailey will eventually run for governor. Darren Bailey in this article said he is not going to run for governor. But we'll see. We'll watch that. Anyway, he's becoming the face of the revolt against Pritzker, the face of the MAGA hat crowd in the state of Illinois, the face of the far-right Republican Party. I guess that's really the only Republican Party there is. There was just an article in the paper today about him, independent of the one that Dan wrote, an update. The legislators are going to convene this week. I guess Wednesday they're going to go back in session. Michael Madigan has asked that all the legislators wear masks and to protect themselves from the virus. And Darren Bailey has announced that he won't wear a mask. So he's going to confront Madigan and see, let's see how this one plays out. He says that Madigan has gone beyond his authority to order him to wear his mask. He doesn't have the right to authorize, to command him as a state rep to wear a mask. He doesn't think that there's a public health issue at stake. He feels that masks are overrated. In general, he thinks that the government has gone too far. And that is infringing on his liberties and the liberties of other Republicans, other people in the state of Illinois, just to go about their business without wearing masks. So he says he's not going to wear a mask. Eric Zorn wrote about this in today's Tribune. I urge everybody to read it. Eric says that he believes that Mike Madigan should have the Sergeant of Arms block Darren Bailey and keep him from entering the legislature. I've got to think about that, whether I think the Madigan should go so far. Part of me, respects, I got to say, part of me respects Darren Bailey. He's standing up for his beliefs. He says he believes in liberty. He says he believes that government should not intrude on our private lives. He says he believes in free markets. Don't tread on me. I mean, he says that he cannot allow government to go so far and destroy our economy. So he says this is what he believes in, and I have great respect for people of principle who stand up for what they believe. And then I read in Dan's profile that he had received over $1 million in handouts from our farm assistance program. He's a farmer downstate. So wait a minute, let me get this straight. Mr. Don't tread on me. Mr. Get the government off our back. Mr. I believe in economic liberty. Mr. I'm not wearing a mask. Got his big paw out there taking a handout. Say it ain't so, DB. Another one bites the dust, D. Another Republican talking a big game and backing down when it comes to what he's going to do with his life. It's another one, to quote Dennis's uncle, rules for thee, but not for me. I'm just looking for one honest Republican who actually lives by his word. I want one Republican who actually lives by the principles he espouses. In most cases, like I always tell you folks, they aren't principles, they're tactics. There's a big difference between a principle and a tactic. So disappointed, very disappointed by DB, Darren Bailey. Come on, stop taking money from the government. The whole point is, if you believe in free markets and let the chips fall where they may. That's what people who say they believe in free markets say. They don't want the government to help them. Times get hard. No. Times get hard. It's like, that's where real men step up. And you just let the market decide. So if you just believe in letting the markets decide, you would not take a handout from the government to assist you because what? The prices aren't right for you to make a profit with your farm? Now, listen, I don't believe in that. I believe in supporting farmers, but I also believe that people who are unemployed should get unemployment compensation. So it's one thing. If sometimes it's my Republican friends, they act as though when they get a handout, somehow or other, it's not a handout. But when some guy in Chicago gets a handout, well, it's welfare. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps, that kind of thing. So come on, DB. Anyway, found a great story in Politico yesterday by Shia Kapos. And this was a classic one. Shia Kapos, of course. Dennis uses her all the time. Do you have any Shia Kapos stuff today, D, in your news?
Yes, I do.
All right. Shia Kapos, a good friend of the show, whether she realizes it or not. But she wrote a story. Here, I called it up. Over the weekend, she got in her car, drove up to Kenosha, just across the border in Wisconsin from Illinois, to check out the scene at some of the local bars. And let me just remind everybody, we talked a lot about this last week. The state of Wisconsin has a Democratic governor, Tony Evers, and a Republican legislature. Tony Evers, the governor of Wisconsin, ordered stay at home, much like J.B. Pritzker has done here in Illinois. He said there was a public health crisis. People needed to protect themselves, had to close down the economy, shut it all down. Everybody stay at home. That was his ultimatum. And the Republican legislator said he overstepped his bounds, that he didn't have the authority to shut down the state, that there was a constitutional issue at stake, the rights of the legislature versus the rights of the executive, and they wanted Evers to come to the State House and get their approval before he shut down the economy. I kind of support that as a principle as well. I do believe in checks and balances, just like we had here in Chicago, where the city council had a mini revolt against Lori Lightfoot, lost, but a mini revolt over whether she should have special emergency powers over the budget. Anyway, so the Republicans in Wisconsin took it to court, and they got the Supreme Court along party lines to rule in their favor, and the state has basically been opened up, and immediately bars open, restaurants open, party time, all right? And so Shia Kapos, I got to give her credit. She had the right instincts. As a reporter, she drove up to the state of Wisconsin, went into Kenosha, and visited some place called the Brat Shop. It's a restaurant and bar in Kenosha. Ever been to the Brat Shop, D?
No, I have
Have
not.
you ever been to Kenosha?
I drove through it, I think, one time.
I've been to Kenosha, but I've never been to the Brat Shop. But the place was crawling with residents from Illinois, and she counted the cars in the parking lot. There was about 100 cars in the parking lot. About half of them, 50 or so, had Illinois plates on them. So she was making a very astute point here that even if you live in Illinois, you may not abide by Governor Pritzker's rulings, which is a good point. It's not like there's a great difference between people who live in Illinois and people who live in Wisconsin. You follow what I'm saying? And so these Illinois folks got in their car, drove right to Wisconsin. They just felt compelled to have a smoke, to hang out with other people, have a beer in a public place. So she interviewed some of them, and they were saying, yeah, they just couldn't take it anymore. They had to get out. They were just, the stay at home was driving them nuts. And, you know, I got to say this. Many of my Democratic friends get very upset when they see the photos of the people in the bars. I have like a different attitude. You know, it's not like all of them are making political statements. There is the MAGA hat crowd that is just infuriated by Democrats telling them what to do. They're just really resent the fact that Democrats are in charge. In fact, I'll just be open about it. The MAGA hat crowd looks at Pritzker the way I looked at Rauner. You know, every day I woke up and Bruce Rauner was the governor. Really irritated me. Could not stand Bruce Rauner. So I was honest about it at least. I could not stand Bruce Rauner. He was such a phony and a fraud and a hypocrite. You know, he always talked about breaking up the Democratic machine, and the whole time he was cutting deals with Mayor Daley. So he just like picked and choose which part of the Democratic machine he wanted to break up.
Yay for our teachers! Yay for our teachers!
The next line, yay for Ann Burke. I always forget that next line. Yay for Ann Burke. It was at a rally. Ann Burke, of course, Supreme Court Justice, Democrat, wife of Ed Burke, okay? He didn't complain about Ann Burke, Bruce Rauner. So it really... Every day I wake up, Bruce Rauner's our governor. There's a lot of MAGA hat wearers out there. They wake up every morning, J.P. Pritzker. You know what I'm saying? It just grinds their gear. I think DB's one of them. Darren Bailey. I think every day he wakes up and it's like, he's got gas. Oh, God, dang, Pritzker's the governor. He probably misses the days of Bruce Rauner. Oh, it was much better with Bruce Rauner. Hey, DB, come on, man. Get back that money.
I loved it when nothing was done at all. Now there's too much of something.
That's a good
Oh, man.
That's a good
Dang,
point.
Darren.
We go from one extreme to the other. Anyway, so, you know, I can kind of understand MAGA hat wearers. I get you. You just can't stand Democrats.
But I think what you were saying, though, is those people at that bar is a bunch of people who don't care.
No, that was, yeah, I was going to get there, but thank
right.
you for reminding me. I was going to get there. That is like, hurry up, get to the point.
No, it's want to make sure you didn't get sidetracked.
I got news to read. Oh, man.
Like 2 stories.
Oh, good. Let me talk a little more about the Bulls. So there are people. There's the MAGA hat crowd that just hates the sight of it. And then there's like the insane people in the MAGA hat crowd, like with the Nazi signs. You know, I mean, and the guns. I mean, there's some whacked out people in the MAGA. Hey, MAGA hatters, you got to admit, you got some whacked out people in your crew. All right. I know you don't want to spoil the party. You want everybody who comes out to your rallies, you want them to feel at home. But when you're alone, just talking among yourself, you got to say, man, that dude is crazy. All right. Just saying. So there's a lot of nutcases in the MAGA hat crowd. And there's a lot of nutcases on the left, too. I will acknowledge that. But not as nutty as that MAGA hat crowd. I don't know anybody on the left who waves a Nazi flag. Anyway, so there are a lot of people making political statements, but as Dennis was saying and I was saying, most of the people that go to these bars, that politics is not driving them. You know, they're probably not, I don't know, maybe they didn't even vote. Maybe not, maybe they're going to vote for Pritzker. You know, it could be that one of these weird things where, you know, rules for thee, not for me. You know, they kind of like the stay-at-home stuff, but they don't want to stay at home. And it reminds me of so many friends of mine who smoke cigarettes. And I got a lot of friends down through the years, always fighting the cigarette hook. You know, they want to break the habit. They know it's bad for them. They're not completely stupid. You know, they just started smoking at an early age, got hooked, and now they can't stop. They need that cigarette. And they know the doctors are right that it causes cancer, that it could lead to their death, but they're hooked. You know, so it's like, yeah, man, I hear you. And then I watched them, as we restricted more and more the cigarette smokers' rights to smoke in public. I remember back in the old days at the bowling alley, cigarette smokers would be out there. Everybody was smoking a cigarette. There was so much smoke in that bowling alley. It was like I smoked a pack when I went bowling. And then gradually the rules, the state of Illinois finally passed a law that says you can't smoke in public. And so they were moved out into the street. So now you see them congregating on the sidewalk. You know, they're like junkies smoking their cigarettes. And that's kind of what the crowd is at the Kenosha place, D. I really believe that. I believe most of the people there are not political. They just got to get out of their house. They want to sit at a bar. They want to watch sports on the TV, even though there's no sports. I think they like show old games from like the 90s and stuff on the TV. You know, they just want to go back to their own life. Last night I got a text from my bowling buddies. They're like, oh, I miss bowling. It was Monday night. I want to be at bowling, you know? So I'm going to give them, some slack. I'm not going to hit them on the head. They just, they know it's bad for them. They know there's a threat, but they got to get out. I mean.
Yeah, you care more than them, right?
What?
You care about them going out more than they care about them going out. So you can't really, until they care, as much as you. What's the point?
I got to tell you, my attitude about them is I worry about the people who work in the bar, that aren't protected, you know what I'm saying, who have to work because they need the money. But it's sort of like a cigarette smoker, D. I mean, after a while, this is his decision. Of course, now, ultimately, I could pay the price. Some guys could go to the bar, spread the disease. I could end up getting the disease, somehow or other. It could come back to haunt me, and I guess you could say the same thing about cigarette smoking. Like, there's a larger cost of cigarette smoking. It drives up our insurance rates, et cetera, and so forth. But ultimately, it's their decision, and it's a stretch to say it affects me. So it's just, what can I say about human beings? It's a weird species. We got a great show today, everybody. Maya will be here, 2 o'clock. She's got a lot on her mind. She's already worked it out. Talk about a lot of political stuff with her. And happy to say that Mark Sims will be making his return. We'll be doing an interview with Mark at about 3:30 and dropping it later tonight. I look forward to talking to him. He's already been sending me all these. Mark Sims is a real big believer, and we got to open things up, D. He's like, I've had enough of this stay-at-home stuff. Let's open up the state.
Yeah, it's going to be available for download, guys, not live stream. So go to Chicago Sun-Times, Chicago Reader websites, wherever else you download your favorite podcast. Download tonight's interview with Marcus Sims.
Marcus T. Sims will be here at 3. I don't know if there's a T in there. So looking forward to all that. Plenty of political talk. But before we do that, young man from Alton, the man they call the doctor, with the news.
Hey, guys. How's it going? Everyone hanging in there? Yeah? All right. I'm doing better, by the way. I was about to jump out of the attic window on Friday.
The doctor, man.
Doing a little better. Still a little burnt out. But let's talk about what's happening in Chicago and/or Illinois this afternoon.
We had a great bike ride. Talk about your bike ride.
I rode my bike
to
Mount Prospect.
That's a long ride.
Today we begin in the city of Chicago. No public events scheduled for Mayor Lori Lightfoot. She's staying home and saving lives today, guys. And maybe she's having a bit of a hangover from the day she had on Monday, because on Monday, Lori Lightfoot toured a coronavirus testing facility with none other than actor Sean Penn.
I saw that, yeah.
The Chicago Tribune's Gregory Pratt writes, Sean Penn, who's known for his humanitarian work, said his organization exists to help governments and other organizations address public health issues. And Ben, get the bong out. We have a quote from Sean Penn, and boy, is it deep. Here's the quote from Sean Penn, quote, "We like to think of ourselves as a quick, unbureaucratic weapon in the arsenal of bureaucracies." Over my head.
No, wait a minute. Time out. You were doing your Sean Penn accent from Fast Times at Ridgemont High, right?
I guess. Yeah, sure.
What was the guy's name in Fast Times at Ridgemont High?
Spicoli.
That was Sean Penn's character's name?
Yep.
Yeah, he was always battling with Ray Watson or what was Ray's last name? I can't remember. Frank. What's Ray's last name? The actor who played the teacher. Some funny stuff. And then Sean Penn's character ordered the pizza. Remember that, D? So that was where your imitation came from. But it's kind of a contradiction within that.
Do you know what this quote means? I don't.
Read it one more time.
Over my hillbilly head.
Well, there's a contradiction in there, but go ahead.
We like to think of ourselves as a quick, unbureaucratic weapon in the arsenal of bureaucracies.
Yeah, I mean, I guess he's saying that he can work within bureaucracies. So he uses celebrity status to gain him entree, and then once he has that entree, he could get people it's not much different than Willie Wilson, right? Willie Wilson goes around and says, I'm going to cut through the red tape, and I'm going to get these masks out to people, right? So Willie Wilson is the anti-bureaucrat on the right, and Sean Penn is the anti-bureaucrat on the left. And come on, D, don't you sometimes get frustrated? When you got some kind of problem with a credit card company, or you got a problem with a utility company, or you got a problem with the water department, whatever, and you're trying to find a human being. You make a phone call and you end up on a machine and you just bounced around, and it drives me out of my mind.
Operator, please.
Yeah,
operator.
And you're just dealing with hold on, these mechanical voices, and so Sean Penn is saying, I break through all that. It's like, you need masks? I got masks. I'm going to call Lori Lightfoot. We're going to cut a deal. It's just going to be like one celebrity to another. Cut right through the bureaucracy.
Oh, that's what that means.
I translate Sean Penn. You can make a healthy living doing that. I will now translate Sean Penn. And Willie Wilson, by the way. Willie Wilson's the same way. He's going to break through the bureaucracy. Remember he used to come on the show? I just want to get people money. Why wait? You got to file forms, fill out forms. You got to be interviewed. No, I'll just come to the church. I'll give you the money. Hard to argue with that. You know what I'm saying? Cut through the bureaucracy.
We have another quote from Sean Penn. It says here, quote,
How come I sign the front of the check and you sign the back?
whoa, he has a lot in common with Willie
Wilson.
Ben, we're all dying to know here. What's your favorite Sean Penn movie?
I've seen a lot. Let me think about this. The Sweet and Lowdown was a Woody Allen movie he did where he played this guitar player. Bad Boys. You ever see Bad Boys?
With Martin Lawrence and Will Smith, yes. 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, I know. Maybe it wasn't called Bad Boys. It was about, he played a juvenile delinquent who from Chicago who ended up at the facility in St. Charles. It was one of his earliest movies. It was a brutal movie. So, but I would have to say that that Woody Allen movie is my favorite show.
What was the name of that movie?
I think it was called The Sweet Down Low. Don't quote me on that.
Sweet Down Low.
I could have it reversed because I got that problem. But
all right.
Yeah.
Well, we asked some of our friends on the live stream chat before we got going today. Here,
Ray Walton. Frank sent me in. His character is Mr. Hand, the teacher. So what's his last name though? Ray something or other. Anyway, go ahead, D. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's all good. We asked the live stream chat their favorite Sean Penn movie. Brianna said her favorite movie, I Am Sam. Remember that one?
Yeah, I Am Sam. The Beatles songs were featured in that one. I saw that one. I've seen a lot of Sean Penn movies. Yeah, that was a good movie.
Jim Irwin says Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Spicoli.
Yeah, no, it's Fast Times. It's funny, man. Sean Penn. And everybody after that wanted him to be that character, and he was like, no, I'm an actor, man. That was just one role,
And Johnny Joe says 21 grams. He says, no, it's not my favorite Sean Penn movie. It's what my last ounce of pot weighed. Okay, Triple J. Good Lord.
That's funny.
Triple J. Don't read. If you're looking to hire Triple J, don't read the Ben Joravsky Show live stream chat. He's very honest on there. By the way, my favorite Sean Penn movie, Mystic River.
That's correct.
Oh, no. Was he in Mystic River?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
That's a Clint Eastwood movie.
Yeah, he was in that.
Are you sure?
Yep.
You want to put a little wager on that one?
I'm very poor. For all of our listeners who can't wait for this stay-at-home order to end, so you can get out there and start gambling at the casinos. First off, well, I'm gambling whether or not to go to the Family Dollar after the show, so I simply cannot relate. But gamblers, don't worry, because even during a pandemic, we are still on track to open up a giant casino in Chicago. Yeah! Give me that thing! It's us gambling. We put a
By the way,
machine up in the attic.
I sit corrected. The young doctor from Alton is correct. Sean Penn was in Mystic River.
Yeah.
I sit corrected. So you win the bet, although we didn't make the bet.
Well, we're talking gambling, so maybe I may take the bet after all after the news here. The following comes from Illinois Politico and Shia Kapos. She got the scoop here. Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot remains optimistic. Advancing the Chicago casino is still a top priority for the administration, and we continue to work diligently to ensure that legislation becomes a reality as quickly as possible. That was a quote from a spokeswoman from Lori Lightfoot. They told Illinois Politico that on Monday night in an email, but the mayor does not have plans to travel in Springfield. They do look forward to working with state lawmakers next week on not only the gaming bill, but also additional revenue measures to bring resources to the city. The casino legislation isn't mentioned among priorities for the legislative session happening this week. Neither is the Clean Energy Jobs Act, which would raise Illinois' renewable energy target to 100% by the year 2050. High-profile legislation promoting data privacy, a cash bail ban, property tax reform, and an independent redistricting commission also seem to be off the table for now. Ben, your thoughts?
Well, good on that independent redistricting committee. That's that fair map scam they're trying to shove it down our throat. The Democrats finally have an advantage in one state, Illinois, where they control the House and the Senate, and the moderate Dems want to give it away. Well, let's play fair. Like, when do Republicans play fair? You watch the Republicans up in Wisconsin, are they playing fair? So I'm glad that's off the list at the moment, the agenda. The casino. Wow. Well, I do not know why. I have my issues with the casino before the pandemic, as you know, D. Gambling is a serious addiction that destroys a lot of families and a lot of lives. On the other hand, we need money. So I guess it's sort of like those cigarette smokers and the people at the bar in Kenosha. You know what I'm saying, D? It's a classic. Here we go. It's like a perfect analogy for the people in Illinois going stir crazy, losing their minds, sick of being stuck at home with the wife or the husband, etc. and so forth. Oh, the bar in Kenosha is open? I'm going to go up there, sit at the bar, drink, go smoke in the parking lot, and then go back into the bar, drink some more, and look at a baseball game from 1995.
Dude, I'm really missing how life used to be.
That's how life used to be.
Oh, jeez.
They want to go back to it. So is it healthy for you? No. It's horrible for you. You could get, COVID-19. You get really sick. On the other hand, you're sitting at home and losing your mind. So similar thing with gambling. The whole gambling industry is based on the fact that you're going to lose. The odds are against you. It's set up for the casino to make money. You know that when you go in there. But there are some people who think, first of all, there's some people who don't care. They're like, I find this entertaining. I'll spend, $200, $500, whatever it is. I'll have a limit for myself. And when I lose all that money, I'll just go home. And it's a form of entertainment for them. And if they win, they're like, whoa, I beat the odds. And then there's other people who think they're so smart, they're going to beat the odds. We talked about this. They won't even, if you count cards in a casino, they won't let you in because you're too good. If you figure out the gambling game so well that you can beat the casinos, they reserve the right not to allow you to play. So that's how fixed it is. If I could use this basketball analogy, D. The Indiana Pacers can't get past Michael Jordan and the Bulls. So what they do is they say, we're not going to let Michael Jordan play. Imagine that. And then they win. Oh, that's not hard. You won because you used your powers to keep Michael Jordan
And we're back.
All right, it's good to see. Anyway, use your powers to win the game. So that's how the casinos operate. So people who gamble are a lot like those people in the bar. They know it's not good for them, but they can't help themselves. So do I want to have to depend on that to pay for our pensions? Well, I don't know. That looks like we have to, right? Because it's so hard to raise money any other way. So that's just sort of a reality of life in the 21st century. We have to tax vices. So I have my issues with gambling to begin with. But in the middle of a pandemic, and then again, let's remember the reason why the casino bill fell apart. They passed a bill last year that allowed the city of Chicago to operate a casino. And then all of a sudden, Mayor Lightfoot came back and told us that casino operators had essentially told her that the bill was structured in such a way as that it wasn't profitable for them to operate a casino. Which, think about that. The whole industry is set up to give them the advantage so they always win, or mostly win. And even that wasn't enough of an advantage. So now they want to go back to the Springfield to rewrite the bill so that more money goes to the operators and less money goes to the city or the state. So that's where we're at with this thing. And so I have problems with gambling in the first place, but really have issues when you're rewriting a bill to give even more of the proceeds to the people who are already benefiting in the first place. So I'm not going to weep if the city of Chicago does not get its casino bill. I know we have a lot of problems. Oh my God, I just saw a story in the paper today. I think it was like a giant hole in the city's budget because of the shutdown. And we're facing serious budget crisis. So I realize we need money, but there's just something about it. Like we're totally being used. You know what I mean? We're totally at the advantage of the gambling industry on this one. And by the way, I don't know, like, who's going to go to a casino? I know, I guess the same guys who are going to that bar in Kenosha D are going to go to the casino. Is that it? So I guess somebody will go in the middle of a pandemic. I don't care. I got to gamble.
I just look at the list of priorities in life with all this, exercising, surviving, not gambling is nowhere on that list.
Yeah, gambling is not high, but somehow or other, that's what's on the top of Lori Lightfoot's agenda. We're going back to Springfield, and we're going to get the casino. I got a funny feeling we're not going to have it. I have a hard time believing we're going to get a casino. You think DB's going to vote for it? Darren Bailey?
More than likely. Yeah,
you think he's going to vote for the casino in Chicago?
Yeah.
Hell, I don't care if they all die up there.
Okay, well, I didn't know if that was going to be his quote if I said he...
DB.
I don't think he's that bad of a guy.
DB. Anyway, I don't know. Maybe, who knows? I don't know what DB's position on gambling is.
Sure, he's a cautious farmer. You know what I mean? He probably isn't a big fan of gambling, to be honest.
He's a cautious farmer. Yeah, he's not gambling with his crops because the federal government's propping him up. So yeah, it's hard to lose when someone's paying your bills. Anyway, so I'm hoping that that is not at the top of anyone's agenda in the next. But we have bigger problems we're facing right now than making sure we rewrite the gambling bill so that casino operators make even more money than they're already making.
It looks like the Democratic caucus is having a Zoom meeting today to iron out all of the details. Hope that doesn't go over 40 minutes. We've learned the hard way on that one, huh? You got to pay money to go more than 40 minutes on the damn thing.
Last week we were doing an interview.
Two times we did an interview on Zoom.
And so I did not, a moment of confession here, I did not realize the rules of Zoom. So I'm doing I forgot who we were interviewing, or I was interviewing.
It was the pot feller.
Okay. And Norbert. And so I'm talking to a great guy, by the way. He wants to open up a dispensary in Chicago. Anyway, so we're interviewing Norbert, and it flashes on the screen. And what is it, like 10 minutes to go?
Yeah, it gives you like a 2-minute warning.
2-minute warning. Dennis is pointing to it. I didn't know what the hell.
I'm like, you see that, right? Yeah, I see it. All right, cool. All right.
I didn't know what it meant or what, and I'm just chatting, and Norbert's talking about how unfair the system is.
And I'm sitting here going, I wonder how he's going to wrap this one up.
And all of a sudden, well, I guess that's how we're wrapping it up. Kind of an abrupt ending. That's how it used to be back in the day when I worked for a daily newspaper. in Connecticut. So there would be a very strict deadline. You have to have your copy in. And I'd be like trying to think of the right words, just how to say it right. I'm sitting there at my typewriter, and the editor would look at the clock and see the time was up. Literally, she would walk over to my typewriter and just pull. This is old school, folks. Actually, a typewriter with paper and a typewriter. Just pull the paper out of the type. We need that story. That's how it happened. That interview's over. Well, thank you very much, Norbert. That may have added a little bit to your stress last week, D. The bike ride helped you out, though.
Yeah.
And no stress on the Ben Joravsky show, okay, everybody? So, yeah, no, I got a feeling that Mike Madigan has an actual Zoom account as opposed to us up here in the attic. With the freebie account.
Oh, Mike Madigan. Mike, we want you to have a Zoom meeting.
Zoom? Zoom your ass out of my face.
No, Steve Brown, man, the brains behind the operation, the media guru.
I'm not
knows it.
zooming anybody.
The Cardinal fan from downstate Illinois. He knows how to operate Zoom.
Speaking of downstate Illinois, on to the Illinois news. Governor Pritzker ain't playing.
I'm not a perfect person.
We are now in the middle of month 2 of Illinois stay-at-home order, and according to the governor, we are in phase 2 of Governor Pritzker's 5-phase strategy to reopen Illinois.
Let's begin with phase 1.
Okay, we're not doing phase 1. We all know the phases by now.
Oh, come on, please.
All right, let's do some news here. The following comes from WTTW Chicago. Bars, restaurants, and other businesses that open to customers in defiance of Illinois' stay-at-home order now risk being charged with a misdemeanor. The new penalty level has been in effect since Friday afternoon, when Governor J.B. Pritzker's administration quietly filed the emergency rule. While Pritzker's executive order requires restaurants, salons, and gyms to remain closed to on-site patrons due to COVID-19, the rule change codifies it under Illinois Department of Public Health regulations, violators of which can be charged with a Class A misdemeanor. As of Saturday afternoon, there's no indication it has yet been enforced. A Class A misdemeanor in Illinois is punishable by a fine between $75 and $2,500. Members of Pritzker's cabinet described it as a new and gentler, quote, tool that law enforcement can use to keep businesses closed during the coronavirus pandemic and therefore keep people safe. That's less severe than the other options like closure orders or stripping establishments of their liquor licenses. But critics describe it as an excessive and broad punishment and an overreach by the administration. Ben, let's stop there. Are you one of these critics that would describe it as an excessive and broad punishment and an overreach by the administration?
No, absolutely not. In fact, I'm calculating. I'm thinking of it the way a bar owner would think at the moment. So let's say you get fined $75. You'll make more than make up for that with your first hour of selling beer. You know, and the jukebox. You know how much guys people throw into a jukebox?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, so it's sort of like the cost of doing business. You just factor it in. So I don't think it's excessive or overreach. That's the Darren Bailey stuff. They're reaching too far, people. Suddenly I'm turning Darren Bailey into your old boy Alex Jones. You know, I'm gonna eat my neighbor. I'm gonna eat his ass. What? Gonna eat his ass? Or are you gonna eat that neighbor? Which one is it, Alex Jones?
Ladies and gentlemen, we have the documents. Illinois, you got to open back up right now. That Darren Bailey, he's a smart guy. And if you don't open back up, Mr. Pritzker, I'm going to go there to your office there and grab you by the shirt collar. Damn you, China.
Alex Jones is in trouble. Jim Coogan sent me that. He's in trouble. He lost his lawyer. I mean, he's talking big and bold about eating his neighbor's ass, but he lost his lawyer, D. I don't know what he's going to do.
Alex Jones in trouble.
So, no, I don't think it's excessive. Now, if they started throwing bar owners in jail, that might be a little excessive. You know what I'm saying? So, I said it before. I'll say it again. It's like cigarette smoking. And you can't really force people to always to do the right thing. You know what I'm saying? You're addicted to, it's like gambling. Hey, it's a classic mixed message. We all know gambling's bad for you, right? It's a serious vice. And yet we're bending over backwards to set up a casino in Chicago. so we can get people to do foolish things like throw their money away and give money to the state. So somehow or other, it's okay when we set up a casino, right? Pack people in it. There's COVID everywhere, right? Because we need the money, but damn you for going to that bar. So I don't know, D. I don't think it's excessive, but I don't know if it'll work. I can tell you right now. I mean, if I'm a bar owner, I'll get fined $200, whatever, $75, and more than make up for it with the beer I sell.
Shout out to Johnny Joe. He says Dennis should sub in for Alex Jones whenever Alex goes on vacation. Hey, in my dreams, I wish. That'd be awesome. All right, Illinois House Republican leader Jimmy D. Durkin Donuts. Jim Durkin. Oh, there's the train. He's a Republican out of Western Springs. He said in a statement on Sunday, quote, "These rules are a legal overreach and beyond the scope of the governor's authority. It will be a dark day in Illinois when we charge small businesses with a jailable crime for salvaging their livelihoods." State Representative Keith Wheeler out of Oswego said that the administration should have gone out of its way to re-educate businesses about the change before it took effect, noting that Pritzker said nothing of the rule during his last coronavirus briefing on Friday. Wheeler said, quote, "We're making a lot of crimes here out of a single rule with no oversight." Pritzker's top attorney, Ann Spillane, no, not Jim Coogan, guys, Ann Spillane, admitted a misdemeanor charge could be seen as, quote, "intimidating, especially if it was targeted at bartenders or servers. But because instead it's aimed at businesses, she said there's no threat of jail time and believes it's a less dramatic step than some other alternatives." She described the charge as, quote, "very mild, like a traffic ticket. Nobody's getting arrested or handcuffed, but they are getting a citation where they would have to go to court. It's not a dramatic increase." Illinois State Police Director Brendan Kelly said, "It's a rearticulation."
Oh, that's a nice word, rearticulate. Yeah, it's like I said, it's the price of doing business in the age of the pandemic. If you own a bar, you get a $200 fine. You pay the $200 fine. You make up for it in the back end with your beer sales and your jukebox and all sorts of other things. So, no, it's one other but, you know, Jimmy Durkin is just playing the political game. Now, he's in a tough situation, as I pointed out. Jim Durkin is the Republican leader in the House of Representatives. He comes from a district in DuPage County, and they're probably more receptive to the notion of staying at home to a large degree than folks down in Darren Bailey's neck of the woods, because the pandemic is more real. The outbreak is more serious in DuPage County. So, you know, Durkin can't go full MAGA hat here. You know, he can't put on his "Give me the liberty, give me death" T-shirt and walk around waving a Donald Trump forever sign at Thompson Center like Darren Bailey could. So, you know, he's got to play it. He's got to show that he's defying Pritzker, but he has to pretend as though he really cares about public health. So he's in a different. He's got a tougher situation than Darren Bailey, who's, because the pandemic's not hitting his constituents hard, is free to say whatever he wants, so long as he keeps getting those, those checks from the government for the farm. Let's not forget that, DB. So, yeah, there's a lot of political gamesmanship going on here, D.
All right, everybody. So that's the local news. Feel free to weigh in with your comments. You can reach us by email, BennyJShow@gmail.com, BENNY, the letter J show @gmail.com. You can find us on social media @BennyJShow. Once again, BENNY, the letter J show. Reach out to us on social media, or you can weigh in on the live stream chat. Let's read what people are saying on the live stream chat right now. Shout out to Kyle. Kyle, what's happening? Kyle says, "A contagious, deadly disease is roaming this nation. Let's build a petri dish of a casino." Good mayoral agenda, Lightfoot. LaSalle Street tax.
I'm with him 100%. Yeah, they'd rather have a petri dish of a casino than a LaSalle Street tax. Yes, I'm with you there 100%. Who wrote that one, D?
That was Kyle.
Kyle, good job, man.
All right, Michael weighed in. Michael, yes, the guy who wrote such Hey guys, we're back. My board keeps unplugging. I plugged it into the wall. We'll see if it
How that works.
Yeah, we'll see how that works. We're just going to break, guys. We'll be right back. When we come back, Maya Dukmasova. Don't go anywhere. It's the Ben Joravsky Show, and we are live from Ben's attic. Welcome back to the Ben Joravsky Show, live from Ben's attic.
Maya is with us. We're going to bring her on real soon, Dee. But before we do that, that was a great quote of the reader comment. Could you just read that? Do you still have that?
Michael Girardi weighed in on the live stream chat. We were talking there, and then my board keeps on unplugging. And Michael reached in. Hold on, let me turn that down. Michael reached in, and he said, well, 1 second, let me find it here. Everyone who supports the casino but does not support the LaSalle Street tax and state graduated income tax, those people are the biggest problem we have.
Yeah, I write a song about that, Michael. Again, I'm going to be talking about this with Maya. We're going to be evaluating Lori's first year in office, but one of the things she has made clear, she's not going to push for a LaSalle Street tax. That's to put it mildly. So she's that idea has been dropped. A lot would be required to get that tax. It would require approval at the state level. But it's just interesting or revealing that we're willing to push for a state law that would soak people at casinos to pay for our bills, people who probably can't afford it, and give more money to the casino operators. But we're not willing to slap a tax on LaSalle Street and take money from people who can absolutely afford it. Just our priorities remain a little off in the state of Illinois. All right. Thank you very much, Michael, for that. Maya, can you hear me okay?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. What is that? It looks delicious. And where's mine?
Some Japanese coffee cake and some tea that I'm drinking.
Wow, that Japanese coffee cake looks pretty good. But I'll focus, Ben. Focus. So welcome back, Maya. And, of course, Maya, my partner in crime at the Chicago Reader. And you told me already that you were working on a big story, so we're not allowed to talk about that story. Just to say, when do you have a sense of when it'll be finished and folks can see it? The next big scoop from Maya?
Hopefully in June. Everything has been sort of complicated by the pandemic, obviously. But, yeah, hopefully in June.
All right. Well, there's a few things on my list of items I want to talk to you about. I want to talk about John Catanzara, the new head of the Fraternal Order Police, and your little encounter with him, which involves me and Dennis. We'll get into that. Get your thoughts. Lori's first year, 1 year is done. Your evaluation of what that 1 year was like. But let's talk about something you did write about. I think it ran last week. I just read it yesterday, so I don't know when it ran. My reading schedule, the reader, I'm used to be just a straight up get it every Thursday type of guy, old school, read the paper itself. And now it's more sporadic, hit or miss. Sometimes I read it on a Monday, sometimes I read it on a Friday. But anyway, you wrote about this new podcast, Somebody. Tell people about this podcast.
Yeah, so this is a podcast that was produced by Allison Flowers and Bill Healy at the Invisible Institute, and it really is a very interesting and timely story, and very tragic story. Back in 2016, in March of 2016, there was a young man named Courtney Copeland, a young black man who was driving late at night to see his girlfriend in Belmont Cragen on the northwest side, and he was shot while driving and managed to pull his car over in front of the 25th District Police Station and tried to flag down the officers there to get some medical help. And basically, they handcuffed him and treated him like a suspect before getting to the hospital. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay. So he died 4 minutes before getting to the hospital, and afterwards, his mother, Chaparral Wells, who's really at the center of the story in this podcast, she's the one whose voice we hear as kind of the narrator of the show, and also she's like the central figure in terms of who did the work to kind of bring the story of what happened to light. But basically, his mother was, trying to get some answers about what happened and who killed her son, and encountered kind of a total lack of any kind of useful information or help from the police department. So this was in March of 2016. This was just about just a few months after the Laquan McDonald tape dropped. So that spring was when you have the election of Kim Foxx. It's obviously a very hot time politically in the city. It was the beginning of what would be the highest, the year with the highest number of homicides in the city since the mid 90s. So kind of a complicated, very tense time. And given the circumstances of Courtney's death, his mom thought that maybe the cops had something to do with his killing, and maybe he was killed by the cops, and maybe that's why she was encountering so much resistance and so little useful information was coming from the police department. So ultimately, she kind of reached the limit of what she could do on her own in terms of trying to investigate what happened. And she got involved with the reporters at the Invisible Institute, who started investigating the situation with her, sending out FOIAs, trying to gather information, basically trying to figure out what did the police do in terms of investigating this murder. And at the end of the day, what this podcast really demonstrates is this sort of really deep lack of professionalism amongst the police officers involved in all of this, and really total incompetence in terms of investigating this situation. And I think that, to me, what seems so important about this is that it really shows from the perspective of the grieving loved ones of somebody who's been murdered. In the end, the murder turned out to be basically likely a case of mistaken identity. The guy was driving a BMW, and there was some kind of gang activity in the area, and the reporters are able to identify the likely suspects. They interviewed dozens of witnesses. They gather hundreds of documents pertaining to all of this. They kind of put the picture together, and they present all of this to the police. Because about 2 years later, somebody else is killed in almost exactly the same spot, also driving a BMW. So, and still nothing, the police don't really do anything with this information. There's incredible audio recordings in this podcast of the police talking to this woman, to the mother of the kid who was killed, in a very kind of rude and defensive manner. And ultimately, his case is still classified as a cold case by the Chicago Police Department. There's some information online about it. But in the cold case kind of social media posts that they use to put out information about it or solicit information about it, they misidentify the neighborhood in which it happened. So in which the murder actually took place. So I think that one of the things that we hear most often, and when there's a conversation happening about the low murder clearance rate and the homicide solve rate in the city, is the police department, the brass get up there and they tend to say, well, we don't have cooperation from the community. Nobody's talking to us. Nobody's coming forward with any information. But what this podcast does such an incredible job really showing us, is that there are plenty of people who want to come forward, who do come forward, who do contact the police department, who call 911, who are willing to be interviewed, who are willing to testify, who are willing to give sworn statements, who do all of that. And still, basically, the cops just aren't doing their jobs. So I've just been like, I feel like this is probably the most important kind of criminal justice system journalism that's been done in the city since the Laquan McDonald story. I really feel like it's such an important story, and it's so important because precisely it shows not the sort of unusual but very tragic circumstances of the cops killing someone, but actually what happens in this situation when a murder occurs.
Okay, sorry, live stream guys. I think we're back.
Yeah, apologize, live stream. We have a little technical difficulties there, and of course the people who download the podcast won't hear it because it'll be edited out. But apologize to that. Nobody's fault. Just a technical difficulty with some of the machinery. All right, Maya, you were on a roll there. You were coming to the conclusion that you were explaining that many people will work with the police despite this notion that exists that they won't. And that the problem is beyond lack of cooperation. It may be what? Incompetence, indifference, overworked. bureaucracy.
Yeah, I mean, incompetence and indifference and a lack of accountability and a lack of, I don't know, the podcast doesn't really get into this, but perhaps there's a sort of the incentive structure inside the department may be all messed up. Like there just may not be very many incentives for solving these murders, or the incentives for not solving the kind of consequences of not solving them don't carry really many professional kind of pitfalls for someone. So, I mean, I don't know, but I feel like it's what was so heartbreaking about this is that this woman who lost her son is coming to the police. She's bringing them information that she has been able to dig up on her own. She's connecting the dots for them. There's people are coming forward, being willing to be interviewed, being willing to go on the record about what they know or what they saw. She and the journalist identify likely suspects who are already people who are known to the police, and like they don't do anything with this. All you hear on the tape is people who are extremely defensive and seem more concerned about the fact that their authority is being challenged by somebody, rather than the issue of like figuring out who killed this young man. So yeah, and especially it's especially just mind blowing when a young woman loses her life in very similar circumstances in exactly the same neighborhood, likely killed by the same exact people.
By the way, do we have to take a break, Dee? We're going to take a brief break. We'll be right back with Maya.
Read the Chicago Reader to get up to speed on what's what in Chicago. Culture, food, arts and entertainment, weekly concert listings, weekly event listings, the environment, travel. I can continue, but you get the point. And for all of you Chicago political junkies, raw weekly columns on real city politics from Maya Dukmasova and our very own Ben Joravsky. The Chicago Reader, free to the public in newsstands throughout the city and online at chicagoreader.com. Read it now and be a more informed Chicagoan.
All right, people, I think we are good to go. Ben, welcome back to the Ben Joravsky Show. Maya, are you there?
Yes. All right.
One second. Hold on. Boy, there are days, and then there are days,
there
guys.
Are days. Mama told me there would be days like this.
Oh, my goodness. Okay. How about now? Maya, are you there?
All right.
Yes, I'm here.
All right.
You sound good, Maya.
Woo!
And you were talking about the podcast Somebody, so everybody check that one out. And now let's move on while we're talking about police. John Cannizzaro was elected president of Fraternal Order Police last week. We talked about it on the show a bit. And interesting character, very proud supporter of Donald John Trump, lets the world know. He's had his run-ins with the hierarchy at the Chicago Police Department, that's putting it mildly, and has set a number of write-ups. He was the gentleman who posed, I think it was a Twitter picture he put out there where he was wearing the police uniform, and he had a sign that talked about supporting the president, standing for the national anthem, and a proud believer in the Second Amendment, and how much he loved Colin Kaepernick. He did not put the Colin Kaepernick thing in. That was a joke. Liberty for some, not for all. But anyway, John Cannizzaro, the police department, the Fraternal Order Police, Maya, had already been pretty far to the right, to put it mildly, from most of the voting population of the city that they live in and work with. I think 80% of Chicago, a little more than 80%, voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016. So with Kevin Graham, the old Fraternal Order Police president, they were already to the right of the city. Kevin Graham was another supporter of Trump. And now they're moving a little further to the right. You had your own little encounter of sorts with John. You never actually met him. But why don't you share that with everybody?
I've met him.
Oh, you
I've
have
met
met him.
him.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, oh yeah. He's made frequent appearances at city council meetings and other kind of public meetings where police accountability issues have been discussed. Around the community meetings for the GAPA, CPAC proposals. He's frequently around wearing like a mesh tank top with an American flag and like Trump emblazoned in the back. So, but yeah, a couple of months ago, I guess this was back in February, you and I and Dr. D were walking down the street down Grand Avenue, and were we walking down Grand?
No, Washington.
No, I think we were walking down Washington.
Yeah.
And we walked past the police union headquarters, and we saw this giant black truck that had some interesting, noteworthy characteristics, such as a vanity license plate that said MAGA, and then they had an AK-47 decal and a decal of a Punisher skull with Donald Trump hair. So I took a picture of this and tweeted it and said, this is parked in front of the police union headquarters, and thought it was just an interesting thing to observe in this day and age, parked in front of the police union headquarters. So anyway, my tweet made its way to the Second City Cops blog, where it was reposted, and then some people on there made some typical array of threats against my life and safety, which is just par for the course. And then somebody posted my address on there. But anyway, amongst the various comments, most of them anonymous, John Catanzara piped in and said that he was the owner of the truck, and basically said that there was nothing wrong with any of these decals, and he's just supporting various businesses that he likes to patronize. And, basically the liberals need to toughen up. That was the gist of the message.
Liberals need to, I think he also mentioned you by name as well. I listen, liberals need to toughen up. I point out that I would have this debate with any conservative. Why don't conservatives toughen it up? And goes again, I was teasing when I said that he has a I love Colin Kaepernick bumper sticker, but I've always a little disappointed in my conservative brothers and sisters. They talk about liberties. They talk about our rights that are inalienable rights that we have as American citizens to stand up for what we believe in, which I think is a principle, is something I could support, Maya. But then when they don't like the message that the other side is standing up to proclaim, they want the other side silenced. They want the other side punished. So Colin Kaepernick doesn't have the right to say what he wants, to take a knee for the national anthem, to make his stand. They want him to lose his livelihood. They want him to be kicked off the team. So I just find this a very frustrating paradox when I deal with the conservatives who espouse liberty for themselves, but not for people they disagree with. You follow what I'm saying?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, to me, the thing that sort of is probably worth worrying about most about this whole turn of events at the FOP and this particular person coming to head one of the largest police unions in the country is that, like, it's clearly a person that sort of, the questions of freedom of expression aside, has kind of taken on, has displayed images and ideas on, even on his truck, as well as in his speech, that, I think a good deal of the population of the city would find, like, frightening and wouldn't appreciate and wouldn't identify that with, the idea that the police officers are here to serve and protect them. So, I feel like it's just sort of symptomatic of the increasing alienation between members of the police department and the community. I mean, I do think it's worth pointing out that the the union has about 16,000 members, and when the votes came in, there were 4,700 votes for Catanzara and 3,800 votes for Kevin Graham. So in total, a little over 8,000 members actually cast a vote. So only about half of the police union membership voted for either of these guys. So, you know, I suppose somebody could have a fair, have a you know, a fair point to make about how really this John Catanzara is representative of about 4,700 of the 16,000 officers in the department. But, you know, nevertheless, there you have it. This is the face of the union now.
How many members of the union did you say? 5,000?
16,000.
16,000. Well, so roughly 50%.
Yeah.
Well, it's a higher turnout than the Chicago
There
guy.
may actually be more than that.
Mm-hmm.
Because they also that's how many rank and file cops there are in the police department currently. But the union also includes retired police officers. So let me just check. We might have this on there. Oh no, they represent. Okay. They're saying on their website that they're the collective bargaining agent for the police and the union for 8,202 Chicago police officers. So
that's a pretty good turnout.
If that's the case, then most of them voted, and it's still half of them that picked John Catanzara.
So I would say this: you raise a very good point. I remember Mayor Pawar raised a similar point, the former alderman of the 47th Ward. I believe he was still an alderman when he said this. He was talking about the last head of the Fraternal Order of Police who had supported Trump and how out of touch that is with where most people are in the city of Chicago. And so it's sort of problematic, this disconnect between the union, the union for the police department, the police officers, and the people that they're policing and working with and living among. So there is that disconnect. There's also an issue that the Chicago police are facing, and they haven't had a contract, I forget how many years, and this is old game that the city plays with the police department where they're generally late on the contract. They string it out. They get the pay back at the end. They get that retro pay, but you go 3 years without a contract. It's very frustrating. The rules are you're supposed to have a contract. So I share police officers' frustration at that, similar with Chicago Teachers Union. So I'm with them on that one. I don't know how electing somebody who is just boldly advocating for Donald Trump is going to help win over public support in terms of that negotiations. I don't know if that's the best tactic to choose, but you know something, Maya? Clearly, most members of the Fraternal Order of Police really don't care what I think, whether I think it's a good strategy, and they don't care what you think either. They're further going to the right in a city that's very much
they
on the
clearly
left.
don't even, I guess it seems like they may not even care about their own contract, because their contract expired when Kevin Graham was elected 4 years ago. There's been no contract since then, which I'm not sure if this is the longest the police department has ever gone without a new contract, but it sure seems like it.
Well, I've done stories in the past about the way the city plays games with the police and fire, and I put more of the blame on the mayors than I do on the police union or the fire union. There's so many games that the city plays. I remember Mayor Rahm, for instance, when he was delaying signing a deal with the fire and the police, and then he did it right on the eve of his re-election run in 2015 in the summer, I think it was. I forget when exactly went down, but it was before he had to face the voters, and it was like a very cynical move on Rahm. He was trying to separate in the public's mind the various unions, so he made that deal with the firefighters. I think he got firefighter support, at least from the international or from the national union. He got a contribution from the firefighters. Had sort of a tacit peace with the Fraternal Order Police going into that election. Meanwhile, his people were going door to door, bad mouthing the teachers. So it's an old game that mayors play, trying to separate one union from another, divide and conquer. So I generally, when it comes to the negotiations of contracts, put more of the onus on the city than I do on the unions. But they didn't really help their cause, by electing as their president a gentleman who's just openly supporting Donald Trump and proud of it, wears it on his shirt and his car and everything in a city that's 80% Democrat. Just saying from a what's that line? Optics standpoint. I don't know how well it works with the public.
Yeah, definitely.
So anyway, maybe one day I'll have John come on the show and we can debate these issues, see if he'll stand up for Colin Kaepernick's right for liberty. All right, let's move on. Lori Lightfoot's 1-year anniversary. It happened in the middle of the pandemic, and we talked about it a lot last week. Our listeners were weighing in. I was telling you that we have sort of a left of center crowd that listens to our show. I like to call it Lefty Land. And she did not do very well with our listeners. In fact, I gave her a higher grade than most of our listeners did. So, and of course, I'm very easy when it comes to grading. I believe in social promotion, Maya. So what's your general evaluation of Mayor Lori Lightfoot after 1 year in office?
Well, I feel like in broad strokes, the pandemic aside, not a whole lot of things have changed in the city of Chicago. I do think that it's nice to see her administration taking housing issues apparently a lot more seriously by revamping the housing department and making that a much more active part of the administration. But I think in general terms, I mean, things are sort of just chugging along the way that they were. I mean, all these mega developments are still getting built. Connected developers are still getting their demolition permits, even in the middle of this pandemic, like we're seeing with Hillco and Little Village, this whole disaster that's terrible for the environment and for the people there. And apparently the city still works for the people who it's always worked for. But I mean, I don't have a whole, besides that issue, I feel like her handling of the lockdown and communication around the public health concerns that are obviously top of mind right now has been fairly adequate. I don't see people are demanding more from the city, and rightfully so, but it doesn't seem to me like she's been particularly that she's bungled. I wouldn't say she's bungled a response to this pandemic in any way. I mean, it's a quickly evolving situation, and I do think that there should have been and should be more focus and priority with the most vulnerable people who are suffering the most at this time, particularly, obviously people who are homeless, children who are out of school, low-income families who are disproportionately impacted. There's something like 40% of American households who make less than $40,000 a year are reporting that they've lost work as a result of this pandemic. So, a lot more could be done. But yeah, I mean, I don't see any pitchfork moments coming down the pike from a year into her administration.
You mean, but what do you mean by that?
People out there with pitchforks and torches.
A rebellion coming. Yeah. In other words,
the thing about crises like this, Ben, is that it tends to solidify the powers of an executive. Look at it doesn't even have to be, an executive doesn't even have to be responding in a particularly astute way. But if someone is able to marshal their authority in time of crisis in a way that is at least performatively convincing, they tend to do quite well. They tend to be viewed well, and it tends to be good for their political career. So the bar, what I'm trying to say is the bar is pretty low. She's making the bar, but it's pretty low.
I that's a good point. We've talked about that, and that's where I have, as bizarre as this sounds, some sympathy for Republican legislators who are standing up and saying you have to deal with the legislative branch. You know, what you just said was so true. Like in moments of crisis, executives, they become like our big daddies or our big mamas, and they're in charge, and we look to them as leadership, and we're willing to like sacrifice our freedoms and liberties to a certain degree because, well, it's a crisis. And I'm like, I always worry that they're taking advantage. There's a possibility that they're taking advantage of that crisis and that we're giving up too many of those liberties. So, for instance, when it came to Lori Lightfoot, I was with those aldermen, the 21 aldermen who lost, when they stood up against her, asserting her right to have complete control over expenditures related to COVID-19. I didn't see why she needed that power. The mayor already has so much power and authority. We just got finished talking about the mayor's role and the police contract and the authority he or she has in that. So, yeah, I'm with you. I'm like, yeah, I don't know why you need more power. I can't imagine the Chicago City Council voting against you. You know, I mean, I don't think the Chicago City Council is going to be like the Wisconsin legislators who rebelled against Tony Evers, governor of Wisconsin, you know, on the matter of the shutdown. So, yeah, I think you're right. I think executives tend to overreach in moments of crisis, and the public tends to allow them to overreach, which is probably just as bad.
Yeah, the thing is that had Tony Perkwinkle been elected, I just feel like right now what we'd be seeing on the ground would probably be pretty similar. There's kind of a limited range of responses to this whole situation. There's guidance from public health experts and from epidemiologists about what best to do. You know, you have to institute those guidelines and be pretty serious about reminding people to observe them. And you know, there's kind of there's not a lot to mess up. The biggest way you can mess up is just to like not do what the experts say in this kind of situation. So I feel like the bar for competent leadership in a time like this is low, because while it's chaotic and scary, at the end of the day, what you can offer as an elected executive is emotional reassurance. But the things that are happening on the ground are going to be dictated by, hopefully, some kind of scientific expertise. You know, these mayors, these governors, they don't need to invent how to shut down. They don't need to invent new tools for closing things down. They issue an order, and then, you know, most of us just kind of follow it.
Yeah. Most of us just kind of follow it. Yeah, that's true. Well, I got a feeling it's...
Which isn't to say I don't want to... Listen, I'm not trying to make any kind of veiled statements about how, you know, we're giving up our civil liberties by staying at home and wearing face masks. Like, I'm not in the stupid camp here. Like, we need to be doing these things in order for fewer of us to die. But yeah, my point is just that it's not. I feel like if Andrew Cuomo is coming across as some kind of Captain America in this time, like, it's really not hard to be an effective leader right now. You just really have to do like the bare minimum, not to totally and blatantly fuck up.
Well, I could tell you this. I've lived through a few of these crises. And I remember when people were after 9/11, and suddenly George W. Bush
came out looking like Captain America.
Yeah. And so I have to tell you that in that moment, I was a little like a MAGA hat wearer. I was not feeling it, okay? So, like, MAGA hat wearers. Now, I was not going so far as showing up at the Thompson Center with a sign with a Nazi swastika on it, okay? But there are some parallels, you know what I mean? I felt as though I wasn't willing to give all this love to George W. Bush automatically, just forgetting everything he had done up to that moment. So that's why I'm saying I could kind of relate a little bit, Maya, with the MAGA hat crowd, because I know, like, there's sentiments that drove me that were similar to them. But I do think a lot of Looney Tunes in that bunch, and I like to think I'm a little different than that. All right, Maya. I was about to say, you know, I see in the future back in the studio. Can you imagine that? Like, I've been in this attic for 2 months. I see just the first signs at the possibility of a return to the studio. Are you feeling that? Like mid-June-ish or?
I don't know, man. If I'm feeling that, I don't know. I understand going stir crazy, but I don't know. I don't know how great it's going to feel to navigate my way down to the West Loop for that.
Yeah.
I'm wearing a face mask in the studio with you.
Yeah. All right. Well, maybe beyond mid-year. I'm just trying to be optimistic here. All right, Maya, stay safe, stay sound, and take care of yourself. We'll talk to you soon. All right.
You too.
All right. That's Maya. Not feeling as optimistic as I am, D, about the
I told
return.
you we were talking before the show, and Ben's like, "Oh man, I think we can get people back in the studio." But you're like, "No, dude."
No. Yeah, it could just be you and me in that studio. I got a couple of guests. I got a feeling will stop by. Mark Sims, he'll be in that studio, right, D?
Guys, I fixed the audio, so we're good now. There was a little plug issue. I think we're good. I'm plugged directly into the wall. Sorry about that. We had some hiccups. Boy, no stress Tuesday. Did not go too well.
I thought you handled it really well.
Yeah.
Can I just give a shout out to Dr. D? I thought you handled it really well. We can't remain cool. Stuff happens, people. Okay? Stuff happens. It's a live podcast in an attic with the brown line going by and some weird guy coming out of that porta potty. Did you see the weird guy coming out of the porta potty?
No.
You missed it. I think you were under the table plugging in. I'm like, who is that weirdo in the porta potty?
But we should be good to go, guys. My apologies. We're ship shape here. We're good.
All right. Everybody, give a standing O to the doctor from Alton, Illinois.
That's correct.
Mother likes you. So, all right, D, we're going to head out.
Let's begin with phase one.
I just wanted to hit 3 at one time.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And the great Mark Sims is on deck. He has got so much to say. He wants to return. He's ready to come back to the studio right now.
And I tell you guys, you got to go download that separately, all right? That's what we do now. We do one interview. Ben and I talk for a little bit. The board gets unplugged, and I plug it back in, and then we do a separate interview. So go make sure you download that tonight. Both Chicago Sun-Times and Chicago Reader websites, and wherever else you download your favorite podcasts. Also, go check out Maya's work in the Chicago Reader. I'm sure her latest piece is incredible. Go check out the Chicago Reader, chicagoreader.com.
Thank you very much. The man, the myth, the legend, the pride and joy of Alton, Illinois. Back home in Alton? Nope, they don't call him White Lightning. They call him Dr. Doobie. Give yourself a raise, take him out petty cash. See you tomorrow, everybody.
Call me Dennis. Take care.
Let's begin with phase one. That's correct.